Hello all. Welcome to AWS reInvent. I hope that you guys have a great week here. This has always been an exciting opportunity to really learn about the cloud, to find out the things that AWS are launching, but most of all to hear the great things that customers are doing inside the cloud. I think we have an exciting panel today on a really important and pressing topic, something that draws all the passion from a number of us, and it's really about changing the workforce to align with all these crazy challenges and changes that are going on inside the cloud. I am so fortunate to have great panelists today. Frank Heitman runs Digital Data Divide. He's the president of the organization. Digital Data Divide provides these phenomenal training resources that Frank will get into. Before Digital Data Divide, Frank led and has grown large outsourcing units on a global basis. He has more than 25 years of experience delivering solutions and experience in the IT and business process outsourcing industry at organizations such as Computer Science Corporation. He holds a Master's of Informatics from the Technical University of Rhineland-Pfalz in Germany. And I got to see the work that Frank's organization did, I think it was about a year ago, at a public sector summit for Amazon Web Services, and was absolutely blown away by the amazing things that are happening, the amazing things that are really happening with students inside that organization. Tricia Ramos has been a longtime friend of mine. We've got to collaborate for a number of years, and she'll talk about some of those collaborations today. Patricia is the Dean of Workforce and Economic Development at Santa Monica College. As the administrative leader in academic affairs over career technical education, she developed partnerships with the business, labor, and other educational institutions to align what Santa Monica College is doing with the industry. And I think they do this better than any organization that I've seen in that community college space. Her prior roles at SMC, or Santa Monica College, include Director of the Small Business Development Center. She is Commissioner and Board Officer of the LA County Workforce Development Board and a Fellow at the National Hispano Leadership Institute and Hispanas Organized for Political Equality Leadership Institute. She serves on many local workforce and educational boards. She earned her master's in educational counseling from Cal State University Dominguez Hills and her doctorate in educational leadership from University of Southern California. So why are we here today? We're here because the cloud is making a gigantic impact on the workforce, and we really need to think about how we realign education to meet those needs. AWS is the fastest IT vendor to ever hit $10 billion in yearly revenue. Now it's $16 billion, and it's growing like a startup with a 42% year-over-year growth rate. You're seeing that impact out at reInvent now, and we're going to talk about it today. It's led to cloud computing being the number one LinkedIn skill for the past 2 years in a row, and other born in the cloud terms such as Hadoop have been in the top 10 as well. The problem is there's this great middle to high skill job gap. There's a great lack of competencies such as being able to deal with ambiguity, thinking big, and inventing and simplifying in this new generation. And it's taking companies such as Amazon a whole lot longer to hire people. Glassdoor came up with a study a few years back that showed between 2009 and 2015, the average time to hire grew by 80%. It's unfathomable that such a big change in the way we looked at hiring could happen in such a short time, but that's upon us. We envision a world where education, industry, and government act together in a public-private partnership to go after this. And we're so fortunate to have Patricia and Frank here to talk about it today. So now, I'm going to turn it over to these wonderful people. So Frank, first to you. if you could tell me about DDD, tell me about the organization and what your mission is.
Good, sure. Wow, that's good. Hey, good morning, everyone, or good afternoon, and thank you for having me on this panel here. I appreciate that. So let me give you 2 minutes to talk about DDD in general, and then I will talk a little bit about the relevance around AWS, because we are a little bit of a unique enterprise, if you like. We are a social enterprise. We are 15 years old. Social enterprise means we are a not-for-profit company. And our mission is really to change lives of young people through education. And particularly, we are going to underserved parts of the world, here, especially in Africa, but also in Asia. And our approach there is a little bit unique, because we are offering our students a work scholarship program. That means, first of all, we hire young, talented, disadvantaged people. When I say disadvantaged people, then I'm talking about their social background. For example, in Africa, our students mostly come out of a place called Kibera, which is one of the largest slums in Africa. But these are very, very talented young people. So we hire them, give them employment, and thereby allowing them to pay their living, to pay their rent and get some food. But at the same time, we are also covering scholarships for them. So they can go to the university and they can start to get degrees and diplomas, which they would never be able to do by themselves. And the thinking behind is very basic. We believe that education leads to better jobs lead to better pay, and better pay really leads to breaking the cycle of poverty, and our students then get out of those circumstances, and most of the times their families as well. So that's what we are doing. We are about 1,000 students around the world, which are all operating on the same concept. So that's DDD in general. Now is the twist to AWS for a second. So the job our students are doing normally is low-level IT services. It's data entry, scanning, indexing. That's what we have been doing in the past. And as you can imagine, that commodity is very difficult to maintain. So a year ago, we sit together and said, what kind of services do we need to provide which are in demand? And guess what? You mentioned it. AWS was right there. Cloud is there, and AWS was right there. So I said to my students, we create an AWS Academy in Kenya. And they all looked at me like, what is this guy smoking for breakfast? And I didn't, but you can appreciate, they still believe I did. But
which is good.
But you can appreciate many of these young students, I often say they haven't seen a keyboard before. That's not totally true. But they actually have literally no exposure to IT. So the idea to take a leading edge skill set and trying to bring it to Kenya and try to teach talented students there was a little bit of a stress. But we said, okay, what do we have to lose? Let's try it. And we wanted to get them certified. So not just training, we want to get them globally certified so we have something to prove. To cut it short, we started this thing in January. We took them to tailor-made curriculums. After 6 months, we had 30 students going through the program. And all the 30 students got certified. I mean, that was amazing for me because I never thought that's going to work. But it did. So since then, we have been rolling this program. Our vision is to expand it widely. My vision is to have about 1,000 students working within the AWS certifications in the different parts over the next 18 months. So that's a little story in the intro.
It's fantastic. For anybody who thinks that you can't open people's minds in low-income communities, Frank's doing it in Kenya. with people who had an extremely low skill set. We're going to dig in a little more into that, but yeah, it's so impressive, and I think just such a lesson for other people who are looking at that. Tricia, talk to me about your organization, your mission, and how you're tying it into the cloud and AWS.
Certainly. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm honored to be here with you all, and thank you for the kind introduction, Ken. The mission of Santa Monica College, I'm kind of wearing two hats. One is as a dean at Santa Monica College, and another one is just a participant in the community trying to grow the workforce with all of the wonderful colleagues that I work with. So starting with Santa Monica College, what is the mission? Santa Monica College has about 35,000 students. We'll probably hit about 100 years in service in the next decade or so. So we've been around for a long time. And so the mission of California Community Colleges is threefold. One is basic skills, so that just, literacy and numeracy development, transfer to a four-year institution, and workforce and economic development. So that's the space that I operate in. And that mission is the same for all 113 colleges in California. Santa Monica has a very similar mission, and then we've got about 20 colleges in Los Angeles, 20 community colleges. And that's roughly the size of most states. So to have all of the 20 colleges in LA working together to try to do workforce development and alignment to industry, I think is pretty profound. And so the mission is multifold, and that's what makes it very difficult for us, because we have open access institutions, and so we have to let basically anybody that is interested in an education in the doors. So we're going to get all levels of students, and some that are very prepared, that are ready to transfer into a four-year institution in 2 years. And remember, in California, we've got some of the best universities in the world. I think, UCLA, USC, Berkeley, Cal, Stanford, and we transfer students into those universities regularly. So, but there's another, side to what's happening in California in terms of the mission that we have to respond to, and that is growing our workforce and getting, the growing demographics that are not as highly prepared into high-wage, high-skilled jobs. Our economy in Los Angeles depends on it, the state depends on it, and therefore the country, because California is so important to the economy. So the state is investing billions, literally billions of dollars in career education, with the goal of getting students, basically getting 1 million more students degrees or industry credentials, which is what we're going to be talking today. So I'll pause there, but just to say that the investments are there, the partnerships are there. We are very much ready to respond to industry need. I think the only challenge is the lack of connectivity between industry and educational settings. So,
Tricia, could you tell us a little more about the courses that have been recently launched at Santa Monica College and your plans to scale?
Sure. So we at Santa Monica and my partners in Los Angeles have been working with AWS for about 4 or 5 years now. And it started with a consortia of 8 colleges and 40 high schools. Because part of the challenge that we have as community colleges, like I mentioned, is that we're getting students from the K-12 sector that are not prepared for college level work. So we have to remediate them and then introduce them to curriculum like, AWS certification. And then, so when I met Ken and his colleagues at a conference, I basically invited them in. Come to Santa Monica College. I really think that you're going to be amazed by the level of faculty, the level of instruction that we give, and the high level that our students can produce at. And so basically with their help, developed the partnership, and they came in and offered basically just lessons, faculty professional development, just to teach what cloud computing is, and trying to get that instruction aligned to the credentials. So it's taken a little while because, it takes It takes a village to make something like this happen, but luckily we have very talented faculty that were able to take the instruction. I mean, AWS basically flew in a team from all over the country on different levels to help the faculty with that development, because faculty have the purview of curriculum development. That is their space, that's their responsibility, and it's in the law. So it's not like we can just take the curriculum and say, here, Santa Monica, offer it. That's still something that, is in their purview. So it just takes a while to get it started, but now we've got 4 courses that we consider to be model curriculum, and we've got 20 colleges that are willing to adopt it. We just got approved for basically $3 million in grant funding for the next couple of years to really just get the faculty, introduced to conferences like this, so that they understand what the talent need is in the workforce, and hopefully develop the industry advisory boards and all of the things that are going to take to make it happen.
Fantastic. We've seen such success out of the courses that have been started here. I think there was, you introduced, one section. That section was oversubscribed. Another one came through, 100% retention. We're really excited about this, and also the opportunity just to share that curricula globally. So, really appreciate the work. I think one thing that you see from both Tricia and Frank is the necessity for visionary leadership and drive, within their organizations. Frank, you've had. Both of you had the opportunity to create an opportunity mindset with youth that you work with on a day-to-day. Share a little more about this approach. I'm specifically interested, how did you get students from Kenya going from 0 to certification within such a short time period? It's mind-boggling.
Yeah, it's true. And it is indeed a little bit of an unconventional way to build up talent. I would say the magic dust or the secret ingredients here is clearly personal motivation. And let me give you a little bit of color around this. So these students have been working extremely hard, and we have 2 of them here, Maureen and Damaris. So you need to. They had 18 hours work days pretty much every day. If you picture a typical day, so they had the challenge to cope with, number 1, they are going to university. So they had to do their schoolwork. They had to learn for the tests. Number 2, they had to work. They have 6 hours of work every day. Number 3, they were doing the AWS certification, where they had to prepare for the exams, and we had a lot of tests as well. So that was continuously learning as well. Number 4, most of these young students are very actively supporting their families. Most of them are breadwinners. So coming home and saying, Mom, where's the food? That doesn't work like this. So they then have to engage with their families. And number 5, anybody of you who's ever been in Africa knows to get from A to B, particularly in Nairobi, is a big deal. So it takes them hours to get from where they're at home to the university or to the job. So you put all this together. I said, because I have myself 3 millennials, they wouldn't be willing to do this every day. Now, and they can speak for themselves later, but the thing which impressed me most is the motivation and the determination these young people bring to programs like this. Maureen said, you give me an opportunity, Frank, I don't let that go. Now, these young adults, they are coming out of an environment where you grow up earning $1 a day at best. You have to live for $1 a day at best. You are living in a society which is 40% unemployment, and you are living in a society where youth unemployment is probably the highest in the world. Now, I can tell you, if you give young, talented people an opportunity in those environments to learn and to develop, they take it, and they run with it. And the last thing, and that was really for me the amazing thing. Most of the students, they just didn't just pass, like I went to school and I said, I don't care what the outcome is as long as I pass. They had grades like 95, 97, like They totally nailed it. And I looked at them and I thought, if you guys continue to bring that determination with you into your young career, into the jobs, into the companies you're going to work to,
Right.
that's going to be a major, major differentiator for the generations to come. And quite frankly, I'm telling my kids, you guys need to pull up your socks. Need drives motivation, and there's a lot of motivation out there. So I think that's probably the fairest way to describe why they have been putting so much effort into this.
That's great. And we're going to get a chance towards the end of the session to hear directly from a couple of Frank's students. And also, by the way, please, if you have questions, we're going to hold those at the end, but we'll give you time to ask your questions. When they were going through the study, and when they were going through the curricula, what were their barriers? What were their technical barriers? Were there situational barriers? Was it difficult for them to learn various programming languages? Or what were those obstacles coming in?
So I think we for sure, we had to retailer all the standard curriculums. And simply because the starting point for most of the students from a technology perspective was relatively low. So we had to start to teach really the lowest level of basic, of networking, and system administration, and so forth. I think the other thing which, this was a trainer-led course. So we didn't just put them in front of a screen and just downloaded the sessions. We did sit down together with them. We went through exercises. It was very much hands-on. And so we also started to get a feel about their speed of learning, and when we went too fast and when we could speed up. We worked a lot in groups. So we had a lot of teamwork. And that had quite a lot, and they were talking to each other, and then they found out, what, I'm good in that, you are not so good, and can you help me, and so forth. So that teamwork approach helped a lot as well. And I think the last thing which was important for the students was, we didn't just train them to go and pass a test. The objective was really prepare them and give them a set of knowledge and skills which they then can take into projects. So we did a lot of time where we just played around with the systems, where we tried things out, and then just tested them all week, how they keep up, and it totally worked. So it was a little bit tailored, but other than that, these young folks, they catch up so quickly with technology like anybody else in the world.
And did you use a structured lab environment on that, or was it?
So a structured lab environment in Kenyan terms, yes. This is probably not what you would consider as a structured lab environment, but everybody had his own PC. So yeah, we had everything, I guess, we needed to play around, and I will talk a little bit later about AWS's role, but you guys helped us for sure a lot, with all kind of resources. So we had what we needed. Great.
Tricia, share with me how you create that opportunity mindset in the inner city. So this is, the Kenyan example still blows my mind, and I know how difficult it can be through K-12 schooling, through community colleges, to have that, I can do this. I can create mobile web applications or do big data inside the cloud. How do you create that in the inner city?
Well, I think the interesting thing about having prepared for this panel with both Ken and Frank is just how similar the experience that our students have at a big city, community college, and some of the experiences that some of these students in Kenya have. The disconnect wasn't huge, and I think that was one of the things that we found, pretty incredible. Kids and young people today are hungry. We're not creating anything. We're responding to the need. And in my opinion, we're not responding fast enough. I mean, cloud computing and other opportunities like this are so new that for big institutions to respond to them, it's not easy. But, one of the examples that I can give is our professor that developed the curriculum in partnership with AWS is Howard Stahl, and he's here. He deserves all the credit. And after the curriculum came on board, we flew the class, a brand new class, and it sold out like in a day or two. And we could have added more, but we just really don't have as much, faculty that are ready to teach. That was kind of the barrier. We could have added as many classes, but I'd love to say that the beautiful flyers that we created, are what got those students to respond. But, I would say one is that the reputation that the department has and the faculty recommending, hey, you may want to look at this opportunity. But the other thing is that the students want jobs. And we go back to the mission of what community colleges are all about. Our job is to get students jobs and make sure that they leave with marketable skills that are going to help them be successful in the workplace, and that those skills obviously are current. And with technology changing so quickly, that's, what's difficult for people like, me and my job and obviously the instructors to stay current on. So whether it's, students that are coming to us or, those that are already in K-12, the students are the same. And yes, students may have traveled miles, in Kenya, as Frank described, but students also travel across LA County, which is the size of most states, and take 2 and 3 buses to come to have that experience that they know is gonna, help them succeed. So I think that if we can create the kind of environment where we're not guaranteeing students jobs, but we're at least providing the kind of education in a format that they can absorb, that has, hopefully some industry feedback, maybe some mentors, give them the opportunities for work-based learning, whether that's internships, paid or unpaid, or jobs. Those are the things that students are going to sign up for, and they really could care less about a degree more than they care about jobs, just like those in Kenya. I mean, I'm constantly flabbergasted by just how similar it is. But I think students have grit. It's an overused term, but in the inner city or in a big city like Los Angeles, they have tenacity, they have determination. But if they find that they're not kind of getting anywhere, they're going to go on and either go get a job or go somewhere else.
Yeah, it definitely strikes me how you both talk about individuals, students, youth as really having that opportunity mindset. It seems like we set up in education, we set up all kinds of barriers to that, and we say that this kid isn't ready for that, or this kid doesn't have the knowledge or capacity to do that, and we need to level it down. And I just love the way you're doing it. All right, I'm going to give you a chance to kind of build. Whoops. Yeah, I'm going to give you a chance to to build on what Tricia, what you just talked about. So, yeah, Amazon heads into this. And a program I run called AWS Educate really believes in this partnership between education and industry, government as well. What could we be doing better? There's a chance to be critical, right? What could we be doing better from a professional development side, from a curriculum building side, from a jobs and internship side, advisory side? Dive deep into that and say, how can we be better, stronger partners for you? Either.
You want to go first?
Sure. At the end of the day, we need our students to get jobs. So from the very beginning, I mean, AWS, we were in partnerships with AWS before AWS Educate even came into being. And never have they ever guaranteed our students jobs if we adopt their model curriculum. It was never that kind of relationship. It was more, let's just see how this develops, and let's see if we can actually develop the tech talent that we need in the workforce. But when we know that Netflix and Hulu and Amazon and Netflix, Hulu, Dropbox, everybody else that's on AWS platform needs our diverse talent, then we really hope that if we've gone through all the trouble to develop the curriculum, to bring these partnerships, to bring millions of dollars into the system so that we can align K-12 education with community college university experience, that you are those of you that represent companies, that you will have the confidence to partner with us at the community college level, because we're really great partners. But we're only as great as the partnerships. So we need industry-informed curriculum. And if curriculum is changing, as fast as you say it is, then we need to have some kind of mechanism in which we are constantly, reiterating that curriculum. And we'll do whatever, you need us to do. If there's 20 colleges and you don't want to partner with, have these onesie-twosie advisory boards, then, do you want us to bring a super advisory board together? And will you come and interface with the faculty, possibly provide mentorships, and that kind of thing. We don't even really need the funding anymore. The state is providing the funding, and not just in California, but across the country. So we really just need, the input from industry. We don't even really know how many jobs are out there. So we've got our chief economist that, is trying to uncover how many jobs are in cloud computing, or how many jobs cloud computing skills, can possibly lead to. So we have to respond to data. The data is so obscure, we can't even really, we're kind of just going on what you're saying. So we've got to have the data, then we've got to have, some reporting around it, like how many companies are in Los Angeles. Obviously, there's huge tech growth in Los Angeles. We know it, it's not a secret, but it just seems like getting that information as to who's hiring, how many jobs, and what that skill level is so we can, create appropriate curriculum is the big disconnect.
Right.
And what I'm hoping this consortia that we're building to respond to it will allow that vehicle of interaction.
That's great. How about professional development? How does that, ideally, we have lots of resources. Ideally, we could be coming in and providing resources at scale for your teachers. But how do we do that? How do we amass them? How do we bring the teachers together and leverage these opportunities?
So just really quickly, professional development happens on multiple levels, and most faculty, to their credit, are doing their own professional development. But conferences like this really are the ones that make the difference. And so they need to know about it, and we need to provide those opportunities. Professional development also happens in what we call externship models. So if you are hungry for diverse talent, and partnering with an educational institution is a possibility, something that you're interested in, then allow an opportunity for faculty to come into your workspace to see what kind of talent you need and what's unique to your company. Because sometimes it is about fit, and you want the faculty to have that level of engagement, not just some model curriculum. So that's another way that faculty can get really great professional development. And we'll pay their salaries to do it. It's not even something that you have to do, at least in Los Angeles in our consortia. I can't speak for the rest of the country.
Great, Frank. So you feel free to say something nice
so
too,
I think
but I want you to be
Teresia
critical.
is really absolutely spot on in that, and whatever she said, I would like to repeat, but I don't. I do it a little bit in my words. So first of thing, I think you are totally right saying, look, this is a matter of collaboration. Workforce development is something which needs, a joint activity between, institutions like ours who do the sourcing part, but also come close with the other institutions, with the industry, which is the demand part, number one. Number two, I think, the funny thing is even I, as an NGO, say, I don't need money. I get enough money. There's enough charity and philanthropic support out there to do what we are doing. So my obstacle is not that I'm sitting here and go around to the companies and say, give me a little bit of money that I can do what I need to do. The obstacle is really that I get proactive support from the industry, because she said totally right. You ask those two students, the skill in itself, that's not the objective. The objective is sustainable employment, right? That's why these students are going to learn. And if an industry is not capable or struggles with putting that objective as a leading objective, then you come into a situation where you say, oh God, I have a huge deficiency in my talent pool. That's not because we do not have enough talent. And that's not because we do not have enough young people who are willing to go out of their bounds. That's because I think the industry is not yet really as good as it could be to do that. And let me just, just to fire up a little bit questions at the end here, let me provoke a little bit here, because this is Industry Day, as I understand. I've been 25 years in the industry. IT industry. And I know, everything is about billability, reducing overheads. I need the tech talent ready to hire. I have no time to build our talent, because my objective is to make money. My objective is not to make, young people happy, right? And I totally get that. Now, on the other side, our objective is not to make money. Our objective is to build out students, to build out talent, and help them to get to the state where they can go into companies and get a job. So if we find ways to work ourselves from both sides into this vacuum, I don't think you will have sessions like this anymore where you say, we have 10,000 open jobs and nobody to go there. So I think that's really what needs a lot of more discussion. Last thing I want to say, because I don't want to be, there are a lot of companies who are doing this already because they realize if we don't help ourselves, nobody helps us. I want to give credit to AWS for a second, not because you invited me, but you guys have been tremendous in kickstarting this initiative. We wouldn't have been able to do that. Just me having the idea wasn't enough. You injected resources, you gave us advice, you brought us subject matter expertise. So we got all the assets we needed to do what you did, to create the framework. Then we were able to take it there and walk ourselves. And if that makes school, that is, I think, what we need to see more and more and more, these kind of seed initiatives from the industry into the education industry to provide a bigger funnel.
Right.
And can I just say
Yeah, absolutely.
Ditto to everything that Frank said as well, but one of the barriers that we do have to overcome is getting through your HR departments. It seems like, we get into a room like this, and it's not the first time I've been in one, that, the tech industry is hungry. If you've got the students, you've got the talent, you've got the diversity, whether that's in gender or ethnicity, then we want to work with you. And that desire is there, but we can't get through the barrier of needing a bachelor's degree or, whatever that is, at the tech level. So that's something that we also need to overcome. And it's not unique to the tech industry. It's also happening in entertainment, where, the degrees that you have on your, on those job postings are really kind of inflated. Because at the end of the day, what you really need them to have is the skills. So, I'm not sure that's something that you can solve or we can solve in this room, but it is something that's going to need to be addressed if we're going to produce this middle skill talent, with the industry's, certifications that we're talking about.
Yeah, I think that these are great points. So on AWS Educate, just for a side, we launched a job board of Amazon, our customer and partners, so to create that alignment. But we're still learning. We theoretically, we want to help people if they're going down this pipeline and they're actually scoring well and in online fashion, they're grabbing the credentials, they should line up for a job well. We've ran some pretty successful tests in that, and we're now trying to figure out how to expand it. And to your point on the degree leveling, we're also trying to work on, and we'll be working on this with you, on the the cloud associate degree and things like that, where we're saying, okay, if you get these skills, then you are able, because otherwise it's not just a it's not just this narrow talent thing. It's a pipeline issue. If we do not embrace diversity, we're going to have problems with that talent. All right, I have one more question for the two of you, and then we're going to open it up to Frank's students and then the audience. So put on your thinking cap. I'll start with you, Frank. Go 5, 10, 20 years down the line. What's your ideal world where industry and education and government are working together to solve this? What's the new workforce pipeline?
To be honest, I have no idea, but I think the ultimate paradise would be if there is no unbalance between demand and supply, that you have this all sorted out and leading to full employment. That would be the perfect world to play in, but I don't think that's in any way realistic. But a couple of things I think is, there will be some fundamental factors over the next couple of years which we need to really embrace. The first thing is, and you said this before as well, is the demand will always evolve faster than the supply. That has been in the IT industry like this. It will be in the future. So that will be sure. The demand, and in both ways, up or down, that will evolve faster than the supply piece can react to that. Now, I think the answer to this is what you alluded to is the supply side means in the institution like ours, we really need to have a strategic planning focus, which is in close collaboration with the industry. So you guys enable us to see, what is of interest from you, what's the next generation, what keeps you guys awake, so that we can start to, prepare earlier. So I think that's an area which, needs addressing. The second area, which I'm sure is going to remain over the next couple of years, is that wherever the demand pops up is most likely not the place where the supply is. Now, tech has already figured out, with offshoring and stuff like that's not necessary anymore, but it is in many cases. Quite often, the demand is still tied to a geographical requirement, and sometimes out of artificial reasons. Okay, so I think this problem, what it needs, I think, is a different approach, different thinking. I think it needs to take some risk willingness. Okay, if you imagine the amount of talent sitting in Kenya, we could solve that problem here right now when it comes to the shortage of the pipeline. But you need to be able to be willing to step into this area, and we have to think beyond India, and we have to think beyond the Philippines. So that's a thing which I think is more on the industry side. And the last thing is really close this gap between what is the demand side requiring and how can the supply side orchestrate towards that. And let me give you an example, and then I let you, because we had a prep call, and Tricia was very focused on governance setups. How can we get mechanisms which work constantly together to bridge this gap? If I go today to 5 out of 10 companies and say, what do you need? Oh, I need a solution, or AWS solution architect. Okay, I have a system administrator, highly talented. What about that? No. I need an architect. Okay, I don't have an architect because these young people, they have the expertise, but they don't have the experience. And guess what? They don't wake up and be a solution architect, right? So the only way to get to become a solution architect is that you are willing to take a system operator on board. And say, you know what? I'm going to nurture you. And yes, I can't maybe bill you out from day one, but that is my piece of investment into you. And then I'm creating my system architects. And by the way, that is not any threat for the existing system architects, because they can then move on to do better things. So I think there's a lot of room which we need to do. And the crazy thing for me is, at the end of the day, this is a win-win-win conversation. You have the industry winning because they get their jobs. You have us winning because we can help the young people, which our desire is. And you have the workforce winning because they get jobs. So how hard can it be, to get to a win-win point? But I think that's what we have to work on.
One thing we have to do is we have to go faster, right? Tricia.
In 5 years, in a perfect world, we would be creating that talent pipeline that tech needs in our middle skill area, for sure. But most importantly, we would develop the pathway and the pipeline starting from the K-12, even in high school, all the way to the university level. That every college would adopt this model curriculum that we're developing, that the faculty would have the opportunity to go into industry, that industry would come and sit on our advisory boards and truly have that symbiotic relationship that we need in order for us to produce your pipeline, and that you would really look at us like partners like that. That, all of the high schools in Los Angeles would, be willing to offer the dual enrollment that leads to the community college curriculum, or that goes from the high school right into the university level, that the 7 or 10 universities in Los Angeles would hold spaces for our tech talent so that all of the talent that's currently being developed, like at UCLA and USC and Cal Poly Pomona, that talent doesn't migrate out, that talent stays in LA so that we can really do economic development in Los Angeles, which is job retention, job creation, business recruitment to the area, and that, you know, we do stimulate the economy in that way.
Awesome. So we got to get younger, credentialing, and not making the bar at a bachelor's or whatever it is, making sure that we don't exclude regions from this inadvertently or advertently, and making sure that there's a job, most importantly, at the end of all this. So if they're doing the work, they get the job. All right, I wanted to turn it over to your students for a couple minutes, and then we'll go to the audience. So Frank, where are your...
So it's Maureen and Damaris. You want to come into the spotlight here, or you want to... You come forward, come here.
Yeah.
So a second of introduction, I see we have a little bit of time. These young, wonderful ladies came last night after a 40 hours flight from Kenya, so they are a little bit jet lagged. First time, going on the international travel. Why don't you just quickly introduce yourself, and then
if you could, right, give me a quick introduction and just describe your experience for the group.
Thank you for having me here. Thank you, Frank, for making it happen for us to be here. Well, my name is Maureen Chebet, and I was born and raised in Kenya in a village called Kapkatet. I'm the last born in a family of 3. My mother used to do casual work as a cook in a neighboring school, so she could bring leftover food from work so that we can have a meal. And I remember at some point we could go without a meal in a day, but that was not a challenge. We had that love for ourselves as a family. And I remember my school life as a young person, it was very tough for me because I was in and out of school because of lack of school fees. But when I eventually managed to finish my high school, my mother couldn't afford my school fees. And so I didn't have a chance to enter a university at that moment. And in my village where I come from, men are given this priority to education. And I saw most of my friends getting married off, but I resorted not to go down that road. And I decided to go selling clothes so that I could make ends meet. And two months down the line, my brother came and told me that there's this job, can I apply it for you? And he did, and when I was called for the job, it was 7 hours away from our village, and so I had to move to stay with my relatives in Nairobi. And after a year, I got enrolled in school, and I was able to support my family and myself. And a few months later, I was privileged to be selected as part of AWS Cloud Academy team. And in the beginning, it was very challenging for me because I had to be at par with those who had these background skills. And there was the challenge of us, we were 6 ladies out of 30 students. And it was really a struggle for our voice to be to get outside there. But we had to do what we had to do to be heard. And passing the certification for me was a highlight because I had to get these skills and exercise them. I became good at web development, creating apps, which I didn't even know before this introduction to AWS technologies. And it has given me a chance to come here, be in this platform, and I'm very happy. Thank you very much.
That's fantastic. Can I just ask you, how many hours a day, how many hours a week were you putting into learning about AWS?
6 hours.
6 hours a day?
Yes, afterwards I do my school study work.
Fantastic. Could you introduce yourself and describe your experience as well?
Okay, my name is Damaris Namhosi Sirengo. I'm 22 years old. I'm the only child in my family. When I was 4 years, my mom passed away, and I was raised by my aunt and my dad. So both my dad and my aunt were peasant farmers, and yeah, they really struggled to raise me up, and with my aunt's kids. Though we never lacked food, but raising money for tuition, it was really hard. I remember over time, I could be on and off school, but sometimes my dad could talk to the head of school and allow me to be in class on humanitarian grounds. So despite of all this struggle, I managed to pass my examination, my secondary school examination, and I merited for the public university. But I couldn't join because my parents, my dad and my aunt could not afford it. So I had to stay at home for 2 years. And during these 2 years, I used to do farm work. I used to plant vegetables and sell it to the local market with fresh fruit juice. I did home science in high school, so I got some skills, and that's what I used to apply on making fresh fruit juice. So part of the profits I made, I'm glad to say I saved some part and enrolled myself for basic ICT classes, and the rest I used it for general upkeep back at home. So towards the end of the second year, that is in November 2014, I heard of Digital Divide Data, which is a DDD, which is a company that helps youths from underserved environments, and it helps youths to empower themselves through education and employment. So I quickly applied, and I was called for the interview. So after a week, I was called for the interview, and I had to travel all the way from western part of Kenya to Nairobi. Considering it was my first time in the city, I was really, really excited. But during the interview, I was naive and uneasy. Yeah, so after the interview, I went to stay with my cousin, and after 1 week, I was called to start training at DDD. And after 3 months, I was confirmed to be an employee of DDD. And to crown this all, after 1 year, DDD gave me an opportunity to join Kenyatta University. And right now, I'm a third-year student at Kenyatta University, pursuing Bachelor of Information Technology. And after 1 year, again, early this year, 2017, I was privileged. I am still privileged to be selected among the 30 trainees to be trained for AWS. And right now, I'm certified AWS, and I'm a certified CSOP admin for AWS, and I'm really grateful. I'm really grateful for AWS and DDD for believing in me, equipping me, and giving me an opportunity to stand before you, before the world, and talk about my story. And so my commitment working with DDD is to provide high-level professional solutions to our clients who are globally sourced. And as a young woman, I would wish to go back to my community and encourage and mentor young women like me to embrace technology and follow my example. Thank you.
Fantastic. All right. Just amazing stories. If your students don't say that they can't get out of bed and come to class, listen to these stories. So we'd love to see if we have some questions from the audience. Over here? Angela? Okay, you got it.
I'm sorry.
Hi. My name is Arif Garcel. I am the founder of Floodgate Academy, which is a nonprofit boot camp based in Seattle and Oakland. And we are very specific about our mission, which is teaching Black people how to get into technology. Multiple questions. think one for you being in your backyard, we've had Amazon ignore multiple requests from us to try to get involved. And so that's my question for you is how do we actually get involved being 5 blocks from you, being very successful, and no one ever returning my emails.
So first of all, are you a
Number
Yeah.
two, it's really great to hear that you all are working and money is not an issue. Money is an issue for us because we're very specific about the work we're doing in our communities, and it's not too many people showing up to help black people specifically, which account for the lowest numbers in tech. It's great to hear programs over on the continent in specific countries, but I'm really curious about as we move into this world of distributed work. I work for a company that's 70% distributed, and we still have only white male engineers. And so it's really interesting to me that we say the pipeline is our problem, but when we can go to places like Kenya, Nigeria, Ghana, and I can, stand up a project the next day and go hire 10 black engineers or 10 African engineers, I'm just curious, like, how are you all being very specific about connecting the dots? And how are you also not leading to a brain drain of Africa? Very specific. I'm very familiar with Andela's model. I'm curious around like the savior mentality of not seeing African faces in Africa helping communities and creating brain drain. I'm really curious about that.
First, are you a nonprofit?
I am.
So nonprofits, just FYI, go to AWS Educate.
I'll be at your event later. We can.
Yeah, I'm just saying, any nonprofit here can go to awseducate.com, apply and become a member, and get access to those free resources. As far as African American communities, black communities in the States, I completely agree that needs to be that needs to be a focus. We're doing a number of partnerships with HBCUs, and then we're working with community colleges to try to make that jump. I also feel, and this is one of those. So if you have you have a team, if you're a manager, I think it's very important that you specifically draw a pipeline that is diverse. You need to overscore for diverse audiences. The reason for that is, one, you need to, people are not going to be as likely to join your team if you don't have a diverse workforce, if they are diverse. Secondly, they don't have the network that's as deep. You see unconscious bias and all kinds of other things. So I think it's really important and incumbent on managers to also.
Yeah, that's great. And I'd love to talk. I think to her point earlier, I think what I've seen in the last 3 years is that the recruiting is the weakest link in this chain. And a lot of times I have, I'm a hiring manager. I'm an engineer in my day job as well. And so I know what's needed. And many a times I see that the tech recruiters in this industry is usually their first job in tech. And so they don't know how to translate true company desire and needs into the candidate that they see before them. So not trying to fix that today, but I heard your point earlier, and I expressed that same thing. Like the recruiting, the HR pipeline is the most broken part of what we're trying to do here.
Got you. Other questions over here?
Yes, one.
Thanks. Thanks to the panelists. This is super interesting, exciting. So it's less of a question, more of a comment, because it's top of mind. I was talking about it today. We actually found a contractor, a designer that we really love based in Ghana. We want to contract them. We want to work with them. And actually legal and finance both flagged it this morning. And they said, hey guys, really, like, Ghana's probably not one of the countries that's on the approved remittance list for our company. And it's interesting to me, I guess, one of the things that I heard over and over is it's about jobs and sustainable work. So I guess from my perspective, what about that aspect of actually being able to pay folks that's not just in your local backyard, but across the world, and actually having an employment engagement? What does that look like? Are there any kind of tips that I could go to finance with and be like, no, we should pursue this?
So you want some commercial data points? I can give them to you. I'm not sure if I understand the question, but so first of all,
Yeah, so I guess it's the actual remittance of payment across the world,
Oh,
maybe
okay,
our finance doesn't have that capability internally.
Yeah, I'm not a finance person, so I don't know what the issues are, but it's what I said before, it's a matter of mindset. So you can make a problem as a showstopper, you can solve it. But the one thing I want to say, because it is important, is we pay our students 10 times more than the average student in Africa, but their salary is probably still a tenth of what salaries are in the Western world. So if your finance person doesn't understand that, then So I think there should be enough motivation for a finance person to find that out. And then to the gentleman in the back, I really want to connect with you. Honestly, I feel bad sitting here as a white German talking about skill development in Africa, and I think that's totally right. But we are doing a lot of grassroots work, and for sure, next year or the year after, I should not sit here anymore. That's one of the things we need to come forward. And then to your point, which I've seen as well often, is sometimes it's easier to raise money in Africa for a problem than raise money in the US where you have exactly the same problem. And it's just a matter of awareness. So I would love to continue to talk to you.
Yeah, I mean, actually, unfortunately, we're over time right now, so I'm going to have to cut it to an end. The one thing I would say is there's also a We Power Tech session or series of sessions at AWS at reInvent that I recommend that you come to. Again, my thanks to my panelists, to these wonderful women who came over here, and to this audience. Thank you very much and enjoy the rest of reInvent.